But when you're talking about 6 to 7 days a week, that's tension every single day. And it's a trickle-down effect that when mom and dad have the tension, it's going to be felt by the kids. The prices that were $100 a night, they're now $300 a night. Make no mistake about it, 20 or 30% of that hike is going right into their pocket. And guess what? 20 or 30% is going into that tournament's pocket as well. This is a moneymaker for all the wrong reasons, in my opinion. What's the number one word? It's not about the kids. It's not about the programs. It's about the money. Coach Tony here, fighting for overtime, the podcast tonight, the live stream. This will be podcasted later. As always, make sure you're following at Fighting for Overtime on all your platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and most importantly, YouTube. Get over to that YouTube station because right now that's where we're streaming live, and we'll continue to stream live, and all the podcasts will be on YouTube as well as Podbean, Spotify, Apple. I want to give a shout out for everybody who's been reviewing the podcast. Greatly appreciate it. It's been fantastic. It really has. I tell people that all the time. We can only continue to build this community if people continue to support the community and contribute in many different ways. It's Saturday night, and I came across a pretty interesting topic. Now, I follow a lot of different things and trying to get some really good stories. Obviously, when the guests come on, it's fantastic. As always, as I'm doing this right now, checking in any kind of youth sports discussion point you have, debate topic, experience, it's open mailbag conversation while I'm talking here. And like, again, as always, this will be podcasted later on. And I came across an article which I think is pretty big, and it's from USA Today, and it says youth sports business model hurts kids. New poll shows parents are fed up. It was by Will Johnson, an opinion contributor, which I will put in the comments so you can read the article when we're done. It says parents want a youth sports system that prioritizes childhood development, family balance, and accessibility. That's huge. Right there, I'm going to tell you something right now. It's a huge statement because I think that's what a lot of people are searching for right now. And a lot of it does not exist. Let's be honest. A lot of it does not exist. We want it to exist, but it doesn't exist. And some of the viewpoints that are discussed in this article, almost 8 in 10 parents support reducing travel, while 72% want a model with fewer games and more practice. So you see the topic, sideline stress. How can youth sports create tension at home? And I think anybody that's listening to this now or listening to this later all know that youth sports has become a monster. It was a monster when I coached. It was a monster when my kids played. And it's becoming even a bigger monster right now. And the problem is it sets a divide and a strain and an enormous amount of tension within a household. And that's what this article is alluding to. Because what it talks about is a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that the normal person doesn't see. Now, one thing about this podcast that I've always talked about was we're not going to be able to change things. We're just not. They're going to continue to spiral and go in different directions. But what we can do is raise awareness and allow the up-and-coming parents, the up-and-coming sports parents to understand what to expect, and at least prepare a little bit if they can. Listen, a lot of it's going to slap you right in the face. It's the way it works in this day and age. However, if you're able to at least have just a minimum amount of understanding on where it's headed and why it's headed that way, I do think that you will be better off as you become growing within this ecosystem. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is we all know about, obviously, the financial strain that a lot of these sports are putting on families. It's become increasingly expensive, not just for the registration fees, but for the tournament fees, for the meal plans, because listen, you have to talk about meal plans, the nutrition, the training, the stuff at home, just the time, right? You see what it just said. Let's go back to the statement. Almost 8 in 10 parents support reducing travel, while 72% want a model with fewer games and more practice. So the model of saying they want to reduce the travel, it's because of the strain. It's because of the strain. Listen, I know for a fact, if you get and talk to parents that are AAU parents that are traveling every single weekend, and listen, shout out to all those parents that I know that are in the system now or have gone through the system and have, I know, I see it right now. A lot of memories saying it's your last season or this season's over. But one thing you're probably not going to miss is the strain it put on you. Obviously, you have good memories. Let's be honest. It's memories and moments. Understand that. But what they don't tell you is the wear and tear on your vehicle. They don't tell you about the enormous amount of gas mileage that you're going to have to use. They don't tell you about the ridiculous hotel price stays, that those hotels that are jacking up those prices 2 to 3 times. And the crazy part about this is, and a lot of this article alludes to it, is how it's such a business now. It's such a business. And because it's a business, and because of the equity that's coming in from all, and the revenue of all different sides, make no mistake about it, a lot of those tournaments at that time are working hand in hand with those hotels. Yes, they're working to make sure there's rooms, 100%. And they do a great job with it. There's nothing better than having a whole row of rooms that are all next to each other for families to be able to book. It's great. However, the prices that were $100 a night, they're now $300 a night. Make no mistake about it. 20 or 30% of that hike is going right into their pocket. And guess what? 20 or 30% is going into that tournament's pocket as well. So this is a moneymaker for all the wrong reasons, in my opinion. And unfortunately, it's going to continue down that road. Now, let's read another quote. It says nearly 9 in 10 parents believe it is important. That's 89%. It is important for their child to enjoy playing sports. Talked about this before. We've talked about, is there fun in youth sports anymore? We've talked about, what is the balance of fun and competitiveness? We've talked about this over and over again, but now this is the 89% of parents, man. This is a big time number of parents are actually showing out. They're actually letting their opinions hurt. 61% of parents believe that youth sports organizations prioritize profit over purpose. That's a huge statement. Profit over purpose. Think about it. Very, very simple. It's a money game, right? It's a money grab. A lot of it is a money grab. And a lot of people, listen, in the beginning, nobody's looking at that. Nobody. Right away, you're just thinking this is how much the stuff costs. But no, this is a money grab. Listen, these tournaments are being run now by a lot of private companies. The days of the tournaments being run by the volunteers, the days of the tournaments run, by one person. I remember, and I don't know if he still does it, but I always thought he did a fantastic job. But there was a guy named Jeff Kite, and you would get the emails from Jeff Kite. And Jeff Kite was the guy who was the scheduling extraordinaire. He was the guy that put everything in together. He was the guy that took all the tournaments to make sure none of them were conflicting with different areas. He did all the scheduling, and it was amazing, amazing, amazing job. But think about the way that all this is starting to unfold. Now it's too much for that single person. Now the demand is too much. So because the demand is too much, now you have to pay. And if you're going to have to pay, what's that going to do? That's just going to continue to rise those funds, continue to rise those funds. And what I mean by funds is not funds that you're getting, funds that you're shelling out. It's going to continue to rise all those, or I should say, raise all those funds that used to go back into these programs. That doesn't happen anymore. Doesn't happen anymore. Everything is a money grab. Make no mistake about it. You could sit there and talk about how great the program is. You could sit there and talk about how great the relationships you have, and that's all well and good. However, if you cannot be honest with yourself and understand that it's a money grab, guess what? Then you're lying. Okay? Then you're lying. Unfortunately, listen, I hope that you get a great experience. I do. I hope that you get a great experience. The problem is sometimes, again, based on this article, it doesn't always happen that way. Okay. I want to read you some snippets of this article because I think they're huge. Obviously, this one, again, youth sports is a $40 billion a year industry with tens of millions of American kids participating in all sports. We get it. But again, industry, emphasis on the word industry, it says. There's much more to the competitiveness than participation alone. Competitiveness over participation. I think we finally have realized that there is no just participation. It's all about competing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Just saying, be very careful that you're leaving people out. There's much more in recent years of youth sports attracting unprecedented investments from private equity giants, family foundations, and other entities, whether it means buying a baseball camp or building a flag football field. Again, why do you think the investment is there? Let's not sugarcoat this, man. It's not about giving back anymore. It's not about giving back, man. It's about getting a profit. It's about investing in something that's going to line your pockets back. It has nothing to do with just helping out a program. Nothing. Absolutely zero. Has nothing to do with it. Again, this is the Fighting for Overtime podcast. I am Coach Tony. Make sure you follow at Fighting for Overtime on all social formats. Got some big guests coming up. Cannot wait. We've had, again, in 2 seasons, I had some fantastic guests. We continue to have more guests coming on in the next couple weeks. I can't wait. But tonight we're talking about the USA Today article. I'm talking about should my child play sports? It's talking about the competitiveness versus the participation. And we're talking right now about these private equity firms, or I should say, private equity businesses and foundations that are investing. That are investing in these youth programs for the wrong reasons. Please tell me. And that's why I say all the time. If I'm wrong, please tell me. This isn't talking about, here's the thing. We're not talking about paying $150 and getting the name of your business on the back of a t-shirt. We're not talking about that. We're talking about building fields. We're talking about completely investing in an entire organization. When you hear the word investment, people want an ROI. Very, very simple. So a business is making an investment and they want a return on that investment. So yes, youth sports now becomes the ultimate business. And if you notice, you see the newsletters, you see all these programs coming out. It's not about building youth sports. It's about obviously profiting off all of it. And when you start to do that, you start to outprice a lot of communities, a lot of families. And again, it comes back to putting that strain, financial strain. It comes putting that, every weekend you're away. Comes back to where's family time anymore? Is it bringing our family together or is it setting them apart? And these are honest questions, man. These are honest questions. So, again, let's get back to this article again. This is an article on USA Today that I found. Youth sports have become a big business. It says sky high investments are creating entire youth leagues from scratch, attracting boys and girls. This is what I'm talking about. It's not our parents' youth sports system where local offshores of or offshoots of Little League Baseball and Pop Warner reign supreme. It's an entirely new ecosystem, bringing big bucks and forcing families to pay up. Again, where kids see a slim chance to turn pro one day, there is also cautious optimism about a return on investment via college scholarships or NIL checks. Uh, Listen, this entire article, again, what's the number one word? It's not about the kids, it's not about the programs, it's about the money. Simple. It's about the money. And the strain that it creates, the tension at home cannot be understated. It just can't be. You have to think about this way. Think about if you let's go with like the perfect scenario here. Okay. We'll talk about the perfect Brady Bunch scenario. You have mom and dad, and you have two children. Dad works full time. Mom's got a career as well, right? Dual careers, both working full time. Somehow, some way, we'll go 10U. Okay. Somehow, some way, got to get their kid to the baseball field every single day, or get them to training, or get them to a game. Somehow, some way. So there's the first tension right there. It's who's going to do it, who's going to leave work early, who's going to take off, who's going to be able to coordinate the rides. Listen, it's a lot of stuff. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is indirectly, it automatically creates tension. And remember something, it's different if it's only twice a week. But when you're talking about 6 to 7 days a week, that's tension every single day. And it's a trickle down effect that when mom and dad have the tension, it's going to be felt felt by the kids. Very simple. It's a very simple concept. So what then happens? Now it affects the player. Now it affects the mental health psyche. Now it affects the mood. Now it impacts the way you play on the field. This tension again is huge. I always talk about a lot of instances, that I brought out. I'll give you one. And again, a lot of these stories, they hit home to me. That's why I like to talk about it, because I remember as a coach a lot of these scenarios that I dealt with. I dealt with a player, and I'm just let's just say player A, right? So player A came from a broken family. Mom and dad didn't get along. I don't know if they were divorced or separated. Doesn't matter, right? It's just they just listen. Sometimes adults get along, sometimes they don't. I'm not faulting anybody here. I'm just saying they didn't get along. So nothing was coordinated. This is before you're talking when kids drive, right? You're talking about a 13-year-old kid. So they got a 13-year-old kid, and all he wants to do is play. That's all he wants to do. He just wants to play. So he had multiple issues before he came to us because there was issues with mom and dad. So we decided to take him, and I'm glad that we took him. It's a great kid. Great kid. Unfortunately, home life, just the tension at home shot a wedge in any of the plans that we have for him. So player A, what would happen is he was, as much as he was committed, the parents weren't committed. And we see this a lot. The parents can't commit, but the child can't commit. And that sucks. because the child wants to do it, but the parents can't commit. Now, again, this is a different scenario because we're talking about a broken family. But what sucked about this is every time player A would get momentum, he would take 2 steps back. Something would happen at home. Something would happen that was beyond his control. Right off the bat, what would happen? It would spiral. It would affect his mood. It would affect everything. And either he didn't show up, or when he got there, he was worthless, meaning he had nothing left in him to be able to play. And it was all beyond his control. And again, a lot of it came from tension at home. Now, it's a little different. You sports didn't create this tension, right? The parents create the tension. But these are things that a lot of people don't see. And again, like I've said, think about it this way. The reason why I bring it up is because even at a 12 to 13-year-old level, when we talk about commitment and we talk about NIL and we talk about the cautiously optimistic parents that are looking for those scholarships and looking to build a portfolio for their child. Now, guess what? That tension isn't just at home, but that tension creates itself onto the team and onto the sidelines. Because even though player A indirectly is getting screwed over by his parents by not being able to be on the field, now he's getting screwed over again, because now, even though we want him to be there, we want him to play, now people are like, yo, if he doesn't show up, my kid should be playing over him. If he doesn't show up, it's not fair to everybody else. And the bad thing about it is, here's the problem. They're right. I get it. I understand it. But unfortunately, it's not his fault. So this kid gets screwed in both ways. He gets screwed at home and he gets screwed on the team. And this is the kind of stories that you don't really see. This is, again, tension, right? Tension. And yes, it creates tension at home. And sometimes that tension at home, it spills out onto the sidelines. So again, here's player A. All he wants to do is play. And between what's happening at home, spilling onto the sidelines, he can't play. And even if he does, he's already behind the 8 ball. Because you know what? Doesn't matter what he can do. He can't make it right. And it sucks. But again, the reason why I say this and the way it relates to this article is because the days of just having somewhere to play are over. If player A would just had somewhere to play that wasn't built upon returns on investment, that wasn't built upon NIL, that wasn't built upon scholarships, that wasn't built upon anything, just to play, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Then even though that stuff would be happening at home, it didn't matter. It would be like, listen, player A, when you can get here, just get here. We'll figure it out. Now you can't even be like that. It can't be like, when you get here, you get here. No, the expectation, right? The expectation is for you to be there. The expectation is for you to be like everybody else. That's the problem. That's the problem. But again, it's an indirect problem. It's an indirect problem, and it's a path and a road that youth sports continues to go down. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's not going to change. It's not. Now, possibly, maybe other leagues will open back up to where it is about having somewhere for these kids to play. I know that there's still, we've talked about this before in previous episodes, whether it be CYO, whether it be intramural, but a lot of those leagues again are starting to dwindle because, number one, the volunteers aren't there, and number two, the players aren't there. Like, there may only be 3 or 4 players in this scenario because there's a quote in this article. I'm going to read it because, again, and this is an article on USA Today. It's called "Youth Sports Business Model Hurts Kids. New poll shows parents are fed up, and it brings about a really good keeping up with the Joneses kind of approach here. And I think that is, again, growing parents of parents. It says for growing numbers of parents and kids, the feeling is stress, stress, and more stress. And where does that stress come from? A lot of it is we need to keep up with the Joneses, right? We need to keep up with the Joneses. Nearly two-thirds, 63% of parents say their child sports teams travels more than necessary. A burden that hits time-strapped, lower-income families especially hard. I, I can't say it enough, man. I can't say it enough. It is ruining the entire ecosystem of what youth sports was built upon. It's honestly ruining it. Our need to keep up with the Joneses can be a challenge for entire communities navigating a high stakes environment. Think about it. Keeping That's where the strain comes from as well. Is these families that are trying to keep up. They're trying to keep up. So again, I mean, listen, we've said this before. We said it again. We're not going to change it. We just hope to bring awareness to it. But I want to talk about it. And again, when I do these solo pods, I want to keep these under 30 minutes. When I do the interview pods and we bring the guests on, obviously want to keep, probably 30 to 45. But the best part about these podcasts, it gives everybody a voice. So as you continue to listen, as you continue to write the reviews, as you continue to download and subscribe, which is greatly appreciated. I also want you to get into the comments. I want you to, if you don't mind. Again, if you want to stay anonymous, that's fine. I have a lot of people that send me DMs and talk about it. But if you have a situation to where this has come up, if you have a point that you'd like to share, are you feeling the sideline stress? Have you felt it in the past? Has it created tension at home? What are some examples of that? I would love to hear them. I would love to hear them. I really would, because again, you're not alone. You're not alone. And I'm out. Like, it's over for me, right? It's over for me. And a lot of people that I know are on their, are kind of on their swan song, so to speak. But now there's a lot of new families that are just starting. And I know that tension and that stress, whether it become physical or financial, is really going to take over. And again, you see anxiety and achievement in youth sports. I say this all the time. The anxiety doesn't always have to do with the kids. Okay, it has to do with the parents as well. See it checking. It says, been hearing a lot about this issue. A guy I used to work with informed me about it. Again, it is so real, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. People that have 2 to 3 children, and you're talking about you need a side hustle and a second job just to pay for the registration fees. Just, I say this story. I'll tell you a quick story before we get out of here too, about talk about tension. So what happens when you have 2 kids playing in 2 competitive travel programs, and they're both 6 to 7 days a week? You're talking practices, you're talking trainings, you're talking games, you're talking tournaments. What happens if you have 3? I remember back in the day, listen, I only had one other person to drive. It was me, my wife, and I would get my dad on board. It was like, let's bring up a system to where all 3 of us are drivers. Right? We had to figure out, there's plenty of times my dad would take my daughter to a tournament, and I would be taking my one son to a tournament because I coached that team, and then my wife's taking my other son to a tournament. So there's 3 of us going in 3 different directions. Now think about, not everybody has that support system. Not everybody has that. There goes your tension at home. There goes the stress. Parents deal with a lot of freaking stress when it comes to youth sports, man. A lot. Sia says, I also don't understand how parents keep up with the tournaments and travel, not just the financial part. Exactly. The actual time element. The time element is so, so understated when we talk about youth sports. The time, and it just doesn't have to talk about field time. It doesn't just have to talk about training time. It just doesn't have to talk about playing time. You're talking about everything that has to be done at home, from the scheduling to the nutrition to the registration to the paperwork to the wash, right? I mean, listen, it all has to do with it, man. Like your life is literally taken over. I will be honest with you, I miss the hell out of it. I do. I was on a go every weekend. Me and my wife just had a conversation tonight. And I said, well, it's 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. I'm floating around in my pool. And I'm saying, remember like 10 years ago where we were at this time? Like we every weekend, like people were like, man, you are always on the go. I was in different states every weekend, different cities, different townships, all over the place, all over. And at that time, again, I'm working crazy hours, shift work, sleeping in my car, trying, between games, trying to get to where I need to go, working 16 hours, going back to work. The wife's working. Like I got the dogs, who's dog sitting, who's taking the dog out. Like there is a lot. There is a lot, man. It is so different. And again, it's because it's been built and under a different ecosystem. Very, very simple. It's been built under a different ecosystem. So again, if you're out there, if you're listening, when you listen to this on podcast, if you again, I greatly appreciate, I want to hear your stories. I want to hear the stress that you deal with, the tension that you've had. I know I have somebody, a dear friend of mine, who has told to me over and over and over again about the AAU strain, about the AAU strain, about how much it puts a strain, on it. And listen, this person's a single parent, right? So what about when you're a single parent and you have not just one, but maybe two kids in travel programs? What if you're a single parent and you have three kids in a travel program? Shit, what if you're a single parent and you only have one in a travel program? And now we talk about the financial strain over everything. So again, it's a shame it's come to this, but it has. It's not turning back. It's going to continue to go down this road. Now, there are a lot of programs that I find, a lot of nonprofits out there that are trying to start and build things to where kids have an opportunity to play without the tension, without the stress, because not everybody does want that, which I think is fantastic. So I'm hoping to have a couple of those programs on in the next couple weeks. I will say this, I do have, I'll show it on the screen right here, coming up in a couple weeks. That is awesome book, Guiding Your Child's Athletic Journey. Okay, right there. And it is by Alex Compton and Kevin Delafu, okay, by Wisest Learners. And it's a fantastic book. I've been reading it. I'm about halfway through. I'm going to have them on as guests. And again, the best thing about this book is it's really talking about what the parents, what the parents learn, how they adapt, and how they grow through the entire ecosystem about exactly what we're talking about. So a lot, and both of these guys, from coaches, from experience, from parents, they have a lot to talk about. And this is what I talk about on the Youth Sports Podcast. I want real stories, and that's what I think is great about it. You're going to hear from real people. You're going to hear from me. Listen to stories that I tell. These are 100% authentic, realistic stories that I dealt with in my 20-year career. The people that you have on, or that you hear that I have on, whether it be when I had Mr. Odes on, and this guy, coach, referee, teacher, right? He's dealt with so many different scenarios. When I had former players on, and Noel and Taylor, my daughter, and the stuff that they talked about, the mental strain that they dealt with, some very, very interesting stories that we heard from them. We had Hannah Howard on, who talked about the Rematch app that not only for competitive parents, but for parents that just want to record their kids playing, which I thought was fantastic. It really aligned with our model. We had Mackenzie Shizzle from Scout U, a former D1 player, coach, and now scout, talking about the ups and downs of deciding what school to go to, how to pick, right? What to do, what not to do with the scout, so many different things. And that's why, listen, fighting for overtime is a movement. Okay. Again, you fight in overtime to make sure that your kids have the best experience they can have. That's what you do. That's where the fighting for overtime comes from. So I will continue to fight in overtime. I know you'll continue to fight in overtime, but we'll all continue to fight to make sure, again, we're not going to change what youth sports is now, but we can help parents adapt and raise awareness of what they're going to obviously face down the road. So again, this Coach Tony right here, Fighting for Overtime. Make sure you follow at Fighting for Overtime, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, but most importantly here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. Fighting for Overtime is a Rise and React media production. If you're looking to start a podcast, if you're looking to get some direction, hit us up, let us know. We'll help you out there as well. Again, for everybody, enjoy your time, memories and moments, and keep fighting that fight. Continue to fight in overtime to make your kid have the best experience that they can have when it comes to playing youth sports.